Perfect. So good morning. Welcome on. Today we are going over how to make gut-friendly recipes, and I will explain what I mean by that as well. Um, and then I'll show a couple of examples, so it won't be too long of a webinar today. And I'm hoping by the end of it, you're gonna hop off feeling like, oh, that's a lot easier than I thought it was gonna be. So what do I mean when I say making gut-friendly recipes? So I mean a couple different things. When you're thinking of making a recipe, maybe you have a recipe and you want to make sure that it's gut healthy, or you're just creating a new one on your own. Um, these are the things that I want you to think of when thinking, is it gut friendly? So the first thing is we need to know the difference between nutrient dense and energy dense foods because when we're making a gut friendly recipe or gut friendly meal, we want to make sure that it's really nutrient dense. I found this picture. It's my first time using it and I really like it. But I'll explain it in my own words first. So, nutrient dense foods are foods that have more nutrients than calories, and energy dense foods are foods that have more calories than nutrients. So, what that means is a good example. So, if you're looking at maybe a real food like an avocado is really nutrient dense. So, yeah, it has about, depending on the size of the avocado, about 300 calories, but also has a lot of different nutrients in it, right? So it's a really nutrient dense food. Same with maybe like salmon tends to be lower calories, but is very nutrient dense. Whereas if you're choosing something that's more energy dense, say for example, like a donut or a candy bar, those are just really easy examples. They tend to be higher calories, but don't contain any nutrients, right? So, nutrient dense foods, the energy that you get from that food item is going to last longer than the energy dense foods. So, if you're eating something that energy dense, you're going to have that quick spike of energy and then it's going to drop. So, in this picture, it says, like I said, nutrient dense foods, foods that are high in nutrients but relatively low in calories. They still have calories. Some of the nutrients that it could be high in is essential amino acids, so all those proteins that we need that our body doesn't produce on its own, so we need to get it from a food source. Essential fatty acids, so it's the same thing whenever you see the word essential, think our body needs it, but our body can't provide it on its own, so we have to get it from our food source. Vitamins and minerals, antioxidants, and fiber is really important for making gut-friendly foods or gut-friendly meals. So, energy dense foods tend to be high in, those added sugars. So not natural sugars, not naturally occurring sugars in the food, but think of just like tablespoons that are being added into your food. That's added sugar, sodium, calories, and saturated fats. Yes, we do need some saturated fats, but we need the right balance. And we don't need a whole lot of them. And the source of where you're getting them really matters. So, usually, energy dense foods are not a really good source of the saturated fats. So, I really like this picture. So that's the difference between nutrient dense and energy dense foods. So when you think gut friendly, think I want nutrient dense foods. Another thing that you need to think of is where you're getting your ingredients from. So when we're thinking of a gut friendly recipe, we want better sourced ingredients because it really matters. Um, so for example, if you're having something that's not sourced well, it can cause a certain inflammatory response in your body. Um, so let's talk about our proteins because that's an easy way to describe it. So meats and things like that. So meats is red meats. You want it to be grass-fed, pasture finished grass-fed. For our seafood, we want it to be wild caught. And for poultry, pasture raised. That includes eggs. So why is that important? Because the foods that those animals are eating is important because it creates the nutrients that we're eating. And the environment in which they're raised is also important. Um, Poultry is a good example. If you're not getting the pasture raised, how they're being raised in the environment that they're being raised in is not very healthy. It could create a lot of diseases and disorders within the bird itself. And what they're being given is not very healthy. So if you ever go to the grocery store, I encourage you to look at like the normal packaged chicken and then find a pasture raised package of chicken. It could be both of them breasts, both of them thighs. You're going to notice a huge difference in the size. And that's because what they're giving non-pasture raised chickens is making them increase in size, but it's not because it's full of nutrients. It's filled with other fillers. So you want to be really careful of where you're sourcing your ingredients. So that's one thing to look out for. Um, when we're making a gut-friendly recipe, it's a good idea to start including some gut boosting ingredients. I provided a very short list. There's a lot more out there, but um, bone broth is really easy, and I'll kind of talk about how to incorporate that in. But if you're making any types of soup, the base can be a bone broth. If you're making rice, instead of using water to cook it, rice or pasta, use a bone broth. Stir fries, sometimes instead of putting water in to kind of steam the vegetables, I'll use a bone broth. So that's an easy way to get some of those extra nutrients in to make it a little bit, make your recipe a little bit more gut friendly. Um, Protein is always good. Protein and the collagen is what we're looking for gut boosting. Everything in our body needs the amino acids, which is protein, to kind of help rebuild. Our gut is one of those things where it needs protein and collagen to not only use as nutrients and energy, but rebuild the gut lining and different aspects of the gut so that, for example, I said gut lining, we need that nice and strong so our nutrients stay in and they don't start leaking out. Trace minerals. So this one's a real easy one. Think of like pink Himalayan salt is the most popular. But when you're buying salts at the grocery store, when you go to the salt and spice section, just make sure that you are getting a trace mineral source. And it'll say trace mineral right on the jar. So that's an easy swap. And then fiber, like I said, fiber is really important for the gut. Not only does it help you, so your gut is your entire digestive system, right? Starting with your mouth, all the way through your anus, all the organs involved, large intestine, small intestine, stomach. So it's all the organs involved in your digestion. So fiber is important not only to digest foods, but to also create a healthy gut microbiome and to help feed the bacteria in your gut, which is really important to create a healthy gut. So when creating a meal, when we're thinking gut in mind, you want to be sure to include a protein, carbohydrate, fiber, fats, and trace minerals. If this doesn't happen 100% of the time, that's okay, but you want most of your meals that you're sitting down to eat to incorporate all those nutrients. So I know I talk fast and I talk a lot. So if you have questions, you can pop them into the chat. But that's what I kind of mean when I say what makes a recipe gut friendly. So I wanted to include these pictures just to kind of go off of what I was just saying. I think it's really interesting. On the left side, we have kind of what I would say is more of an old school food pyramid. So left side is not what I would go off of. Right side is what I would go off of, but I'm going to explain both. So on the left side, the food pyramid, you see that majority of the foods are bread, cereals, and pastas, and then vegetables, fruits, and then protein, and then 10% for fat, oil, sugars, and sweets. So this is, like I said, kind of old school. We've realized that majority of our foods and what we need in our body is not bread, cereals, and pastas. And we don't really need to put in our healthy food pyramid space for sugar and sweets. Not that you can't have them every once in a while. I just wouldn't include them in a healthy food pyramid. Over on the right side, still not perfect, but protein foods is your larger source of what you should be eating. Then your vegetables. This is important. Complex carbohydrates, not just bread, cereals, and pastas, but complex carbohydrates. And then fruits and berries. So, still not perfect because we do need the fats. We need those essential fatty acids, but I like how it explains it a little different where we want our focus to be on the protein that we're eating. We want to make sure we're getting lots of vegetables in, those fibers, and you can get carbohydrates from your vegetables. And then we have a smaller amount of the complex carbohydrates. So those are like more the rices and pastas. And then room for those natural sugars, the fruits and berries. So research is just showing that the slight transition in the way we think, so more nutrient dense foods instead of these energy dense foods like the bread, cereals, and pastas can make a huge difference, especially on your gut health. Okay, so I wanted to show you guys some examples. So this is going to be really basic. What I did was I went and I Googled some recipes and then I copied it and I put what I would add or what I would do to make it a little bit more gut friendly. So the chicken salad calls for almonds, for mayo, lemon juice, ground black pepper, cooked chicken meat, and celery. So all pretty good ingredients, a pretty nutrient dense meal. It has the fats, it has the carbohydrates, it has the meat in it. But how can we make this a little bit more gut friendly? So first off, sourcing matters. So as much as you can, trying to get something organically sourced. Almonds, sometimes you could get like a sprouted almond, which would be a better choice for your gut. That sprout, that extra fiber is really beneficial. Then when we come to the mayo, not all mayos are created equally. I would get an avocado oil-based mayo. So, part of the better sourced ingredients is starting to be aware of what can cause inflammation in your body. A lot of the normal or most popular mayo is made with like a canola oil or be aware because sometimes it'll say like olive oil based and then you flip it over and it still has that canola or vegetable oil, which are really highly inflammatory oils and can do a lot of damage to your gut. So you really want to find a mayo that is avocado. Sorry, my screen is jumping ahead. That is avocado oil based. So some examples of brands, I like Primal Kitchen taste wise. Sir Kensington is another one that is just purely all avocado oil. Mayo is really easy, where if you are someone who likes to work in the kitchen, you can make it in the kitchen. But that's just a really simple swap that you could do to make it a little bit more gut friendly. Lemon juice, totally fine. Grab a real lemon or the little bottles of lemon juice. Same with black pepper. So cooked chicken, we talked about sourcing our ingredients of meat. Chicken, you want to try to get pasture raised rather than just the normal chicken, even if it says cage free. I would really try to go for the pasture raised. I know it's not offered in every grocery store, at least where I'm at, it's not offered in every grocery store. So I would go off the good, better, best model, trying to just get the best version that you can. If the best version that you can is just a cage free, that's okay. But really try to do the pasture raised and then a stalk of celery. The only swap that I would maybe say is if you can source it organically. So really, when you look at it, it's not it's not as super, it shouldn't feel super difficult to make things gut friendly once you start knowing and realizing what is damaging your gut, which is inflammatory ingredients. So really the major thing here is the mayo and then where you're sourcing the chicken. Okay. These are enchiladas. I love enchiladas. So on the left side, the normal or not normal recipe, but the recipe I found on Google. 1.5 cups cooked shredded chicken, 2 cups of easy enchilada sauce. I think they provided a recipe for the enchilada sauce. I usually don't make my enchilada sauce, so I'm going to say that they meant 2 cups of a store-bought enchilada sauce. 8 corn or flour tortillas, 2.5 cups of shredded Mexican blend cheese, salt and black pepper to taste, optional toppings, diced onions, chopped cilantro, sour cream, shredded lettuce, and cheese. So on the right side, what would I do to make this a little bit more gut friendly? We just talked about the chicken. If you can, make it pasture raised. For the enchilada sauce, if you're buying this in the store, you want to check the ingredients just like we would the mayo, right? You want to see what's in it. Some things to watch out for in sauces is the sugar content. So if you're looking at an ingredients label, you will see total sugars, and right underneath that, you will see added sugars. So total sugars is natural plus added sugars. It's okay if you get natural sugar in there. You just want to be aware of how much added sugars that you're intaking. So, if I saw something and it said total sugars was like 14 and then there's 10 grams of added sugars, that's a lot of added sugar. Those are just teaspoons of sugar being added into your food. Um, Recommended for women is 25 grams of added sugar per day. For men, it's about 30 to 35. They just they break it down a little bit differently than we do. To put that into perspective, a can of soda has 36 grams of sugar. So over the daily allotment, just in one sitting. So check your sugar content and the oil that is used in it. So same thing with the avocado oil. We really want to avoid inflammatory oils like canola or vegetable oil. Those are the top 2 oils that are going to be used in these types of food items. So trying to find something that maybe doesn't have oil or is an olive oil or an avocado oil based. For my enchilada sauce or any type of Mexican food, as of right now, because they just got a new owner, they just got bought out, is Siete. As of right now, all their ingredients are still the same, but that's something you want to look out for when you become brand loyal to brands, is just that if you notice they get bought out or maybe you don't, you just want to continue checking the ingredients. But Siete is a really good brand and their enchilada sauces are really good. I prefer the green enchilada sauce, but that's just my preference. Tortillas, either make from scratch, they're pretty easy, or you want to check for the refined ingredients and inflammatory oils. So I don't go much into ingredients here. I do have webinars on that goes into a little bit more detail on ingredients and things like that. So if you're interested, just reach out to me and I could either let you know when the next webinar is or send you in the right direction of where to find that. But refined ingredients that we want to look out for in tortillas is like if you're getting a flour tortilla, if it's made with white flour, white flour is refined, meaning that all of the nutrients are taken out of it. So whole wheat flour has all that fiber mixed into it, so it's easier for our body to break down. When we take that out and we just have white flour, it becomes really hard for our body to break down and sends an inflammatory response in our gut. So just to be aware, check what flour is being used and what oil is being used. Siete has tortillas. They're different than normal tortillas. A lot of them, like My favorite one is the cassava flour tortillas. They're a little bit more similar to normal tortillas. The almond flour, the texture and whatnot is a bit different. So just be aware of that. Full disclaimer there. I think the company, and I might be saying it slightly wrong, I've got it a couple times, La Factoria. I don't know, I'm trying to picture it in my head. Not all of their tortillas are okay, but they do have some that have better ingredients in it. So just make sure you flip it over and see what the ingredients are. But I've been able to get a couple packs of those, and those are more similar to like the normal flour tortillas that we're used to using. Cheese, Mexican blend cheese. So my thing with dairy, if you're sensitive to dairy, don't use it. Use like a goat cheese. I've used shredded goat cheese in my recipes, and my family, I have a 2-year-old and my partner, they do not necessarily have the same taste buds as me, and they don't notice a difference, and they still think the enchiladas are great with that. If you don't have a sensitivity to milk, using a better source, which is a grass-fed cheese, is going to be better. For salt and black pepper, I kind of mentioned this in the first slide. An easy exchange here. Black pepper is totally fine. For salt, just using your trace mineral salt. So remember, that's in the grocery store, usually on the very bottom shelf. It'll say trace minerals. It could be white, it could be pink, it could be black. I've seen it in all sorts of different colors. It could be red. So using trace minerals would be beneficial. One thing I like to do in my enchiladas is to add some fiber to it. So either adding some spinach in there, making sure that if I am maybe adding some stuff on top, shredded lettuce is awesome, but doing like it with shredded spinach or like a cabbage to get a little bit more fiber content is going to be really beneficial for the gut. For all the vegetables, if possible, doing it organically sourced. If not, look in your area for the Dirty Dozen and Clean 15. They update it yearly, and it tells you what foods. So the Dirty Dozen are the foods that have the top pesticides in it. Clean 15 are usually the foods that you could tend to get not organic. Again, with the sour cream, just try to get organic or grass-fed. If you're sensitive to dairy, then I would use a plain sour cream or a plain dairy-free yogurt as your alternative. So those are 2 examples. And I chose kind of basic ones. We're not going to go over creating a recipe because the same rules apply. So really the things that you're looking for is you're taking a recipe, and like I said, we'll go back to the first page. We want to make sure that we're doing nutrient dense foods, right? So we're just looking at the ingredients. How can I make this a little bit more nutrient dense? Better sourced ingredients. So if a recipe calls for chicken, let's get it pasture raised. If it calls for beef, let's get it grass fed. If you're making fish tacos, wild caught fish. I must be in a Mexican mood because tacos and enchiladas sound really good right now. Including some gut boosting ingredients. So like I said, making, if it calls for salt, using your trace minerals, finding a way to sneak in some fiber. So another way with the enchiladas that you could have done fiber is maybe including some beans on the side. I like adding in more the green leafy vegetables. It's a little bit lighter for me, and I still get that fiber content. Bone broth is a super simple one. If you're cooking the chicken ahead of time for both the chicken salad and the enchiladas, you could cook it in the bone broth to kind of get those extra collagen and those extra nutrients in. And we want to just be sure that we're including the protein, carbs, fiber, fats, and trace minerals in your meal. So super simple. Once you start getting started, you just need to start being a little bit more conscious and maybe get some of the tools that you need to make it more gut friendly. So if you're using a mayo right now that is maybe canola oil base, once you finish that, just go to the store and buy one that's avocado oil based, and then you'll start making small swaps. I don't usually recommend going through your kitchen and throwing out a bunch of stuff that you're realizing, oh shoot, I use a bunch of stuff that's canola oil based. Just as you're finishing things, start slowly swapping it out for better source or better ingredients. So I did want to do a disclaimer as we're finishing up here. These are tips for basic gut health. So, as a clinical nutritionist, I work with a lot of people on a big realm of things. This is basic. I'm just wanting to be conscious of my gut health and make better decisions, maybe reduce some inflammation and give my gut what it needs to thrive. If you're someone who's struggling with some irritable bowel diseases like Crohn's or the UC or something like IBS, even gallbladder removal, where you're not able to do have the bile and break down fats like you should, recipes are going to need further help or further restrictions, I should say. So if you're someone who's struggling with any of these, I would reach out and we can talk about maybe some more. I don't like using the word restrictions, but some more alternatives or changes that you can start doing that's going to benefit your gut a little bit more. So that is all I have for you guys today. I'm gonna trying to pull up my chat just to make sure there's no questions. And if there's not, then I'll go ahead and hop off. It's not letting me see. Okay, I'll stop sharing my screen. There we go. Okay, so no questions. If you are kind of thinking about things after this short webinar and questions come up, feel free to reach out to me. I'll put in my email into the chat. That way that you guys have it. I don't know if on Zoom it has it. If you're in the members group, you could always ask in the members group too as well. So like I said, this is recorded and I'll post it in our members group. That way those who missed it can watch it after the fact. But I hope this was helpful in just starting to get things turning and how to think of recipes a little bit more gut friendly and what you can maybe start doing in your own kitchen. But I hope you guys have a good day. And then I will see you next time in February for our webinar. So I'll get those emailed out and posted so you guys know when those are. Thank you.